We have landed.
Welcome, Françoise. So here we are. I call it our living room. The real story behind our business is a show where we meet amazing women who are in the middle of, building an empire. And why we meet is really to hear more about, what happened that took you from A to Z, and why today you're doing what you're doing. So welcome, Françoise. I'm going to let you introduce yourself. I always ask you to say your name, who you are, and who you serve. So the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Angelique, and it's really my pleasure to be on your show. Happy to have this conversation, really meaningful conversations that you have, so I'm glad to be part of that. So my name is Françoise Roy, and long time, career in the public, in the private, and the not-for-profit sector. And I just recently made the jump to entrepreneurship. And people I serve, what I'm really passionate about is serving rising women leaders, women who are increasingly having responsibility and moving their career, and I really want to support them. So that's who I'm serving.
Awesome. So we're going to do a deep dive into that in the next few minutes. So Françoise, I always like to start with the beginning. When you were a little girl, like 5, 7, even 10 years old, what was the thing you were playing with, or that could kind of shape who you became now?
Well, I've always been really active physically. I've been involved in sports, and really found my way in sports. I kind of found my voice, found my groove, if you will. I was really tall, really young. I was like towering over other boys when I was 11 years old, and so started to play basketball, and it gave me a lot of confidence. I was really felt awkward. You know how awkward from 11 to 13 is. So I think sports had a lot to do with kind of shaping my way of finding my voice and my way of and it also, quite frankly, developed my leadership skills. And so was often, captain of the team, and was always kind of the one who was saying, no, we can do this tournament. No, we can do this. So it actually, I think, is through sports that I kind of found my calling.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Moncton, New Brunswick. So in a francophone family. So, but in an English neighborhood. So I was, flipped from French to English my whole life. I did that basically since I was 8. And so really happy to be a Monctonian. But I don't live there anymore. I mean, I live now in Fredericton, but really strong roots. And just for the record, I was born in Campbellton in northern New Brunswick in the Restigouche area, and I love the Restigouche area. So I have strong roots there, and love to be on the Restigouche River and be out in that area.
Yeah, outdoor is your second name, middle name.
Yes, very much so. Yes.
So, Françoise, what I love about your story is that, I'm going to be completely transparent. You and we met through a completely different world. You were a woman that that was like my hierarchy of things. You were at the top of the organization I was working for. And I would have never guessed that someone like you would do what you're doing right now, which is, you said you want to support leadership, women in leadership, which is not what I'm excited, I'm questioning or anything, but it's just what I love about your story is how you want to include outdoors in this. And that's very unique, right? So you just told us about your childhood, your sports, living in the woods and by the river in Campbellton, because if you don't know the eastern part of Canada, it's very woody and very wet.
Oh, but lots of water. Yeah, but beautiful, pristine outdoor area in eastern Canada.
Yeah. So before I ask you about your business and everything, just tell me more about that relationship between, being such a, your career as a senior executive in multiple organizations and this thrive for the outdoor, and how you this is what I want to do now. I want to help leaders and make it outdoorsy.
Yeah. So I think my love for the nature started a little later on in life. I was as a young adult, and it became a very important part of my well-being. So as I was moving, in my career into, more senior positions and more, and how was I dealing with stress? How was I dealing with, being a mother, a working mother, involved in the community? I really do have a fair bit of energy, but at one point I needed to get grounded, and I had to find my center of gravity. And I always came back to going outdoors. And so I'm outdoors every single day, basically, even if it's just for a walk. But I bike, I ski, I hike, almost, I very, very regularly. And it's just, for me personally, was a way to get grounded and find my center of gravity and sort of collect my thoughts. And I probably, a lot of people do that. I think, and we saw it in COVID, how, people were really escaping the negativity of the pandemic and going outside, and people kind of reconnected with the nature and the outdoors. For me, it's always been part of my life. And that's kind of when I started thinking about maybe offering a consultancy around women leadership. I thought, well, I'm just going to offer what has been a recipe for me, which one of the elements, not all the elements, but one of the elements is connecting with nature, which helped me connect with myself and my core and my values.
I love this. Thank you for sharing this. So tell me more about, you said something. You said the word COVID, which is a turning point for a lot of people, right? So right now we're talking about, and I want to come back to your recipe, okay? Because I think it's really important that people understand where you're coming from and where you're going to. We know that there is a movement right now called the Great Resignation.
Yes.
And you're kind of a product of it.
Yeah.
You're not a product, but you know what I mean?
But I'm one of them.
Amazing illustration of it. Yeah, you're one of them.
Yeah, exactly.
So how do you identify yourself and your journey with what's going on in the world?
Okay, well, I've been thinking, for the last little while that I wanted to take control of my life a little bit. And certainly, back in early 2021, in January, February this year, I was really thinking, okay, I want to be in control of my time. I want to be in control of who I'm working with. And I think it comes maybe with a certain age, after you've been in the market, in the job market for 30 years, basically. You kind of know what you want to do, and you know what's important, and you know how you want to feel, because often we do things because we feel obligated because it's expected of us, but I came to a point in this year that I said, no, I want to do something where I'm feeling great. It really is connecting with my soul, really. And so I didn't know I was part of a broader movement, quite frankly. And it's actually, it's through a video or an interview you did, Angélique, is with Deb Belanger a number, of months ago, about that time of year, when you were having an interview with her, and she was talking about life after corporate. And it really rung a bell with me, because I was in a corporate world and I thought, gosh, there is a life after corporate. And she is a mentor and coach in how to transition from the corporate life to the entrepreneurial life. So I got really excited about that, and it got the wheels turning. And so and so that was part of the, thinking about, I wanted to, be my own kind of person and do my own thing. But it was also, it was really a lifestyle decision. I just, I guess I'm at an age where I see a lot of people in my age and a lot of my friends who have health challenges, and, and it really struck to me. I mean, for the first time in my life, I really said, okay, enough of that. I think I want to take time and want to do life projects, and I want to do things that are important to me. So I jumped, I dived, I took the big jump off the cliff. And so what I'm, concentrating on and developing my business is, like I said, it's women leadership. It's a bit of a coaching, a business, quite frankly, although it's a crowded space, coaching. There's a lot of people in that space, but I'm going with my gut. I'm going with what I feel has been really helpful with me. And part of that recipe, as I was saying, is integrating well-being, physical well-being with your mental well-being. And those are kind of the basic premise you need to be a good leader. So you can be a hard worker, you can be really smart, but if you're not really well connected to your body and to your wellness, you're not going to be of service to a whole lot of other people.
Ooh, you said so many keywords. You said feeling, lifestyle, enough of this.
Yeah.
And old enough to know what I really want now. Okay. Wow. So for people who are watching right now and maybe are thinking through those lenses, what was the biggest struggle for you to make the leap or take the leap?
Well, first I should say that it was a long process. Like it just didn't happen overnight. I was thinking about it. I was, kind of muddling this over, and then I started writing. I started writing what is important. What do I want my life to look like? It's kind of silly, but I kind of did a life design thing. I said, well, I really, every day, this is what I would love for and I didn't think it was possible, quite frankly. I'm writing thinking, oh, that's not, I'd love to work in jeans every day. I'd like to be outdoors being part of my life more integral part. And I thought, well, that's crazy. After being in corporate most of my life, I thought, that's crazy. How am I going to do that? So anyway, it was a process, right? It's a process. You start thinking about it, you start designing. And so I started designing a bit what I wanted my life to look like. And then, I kind of, I have mentors and I have coaches that have, I've bounced ideas off, and I've really worked hard at thinking about and, designing what I thought would be a good business plan and a good lifestyle. And so, so I did the leap. And then your question was, sorry, I probably went off on left field there, but the question was what?
I know, like, what was the biggest struggle? What was the biggest struggle right. When you know?
Yeah. Well, the biggest struggle was, getting the courage to act, getting the courage to actually do it. But once it's done, man, it feels good. It feels wonderful to be, kind of in control, my mistakes, I'm going to reap the benefits, and I'm going to, suffer the struggles of, failures, but it's on me. And that's a great feeling. It's funny to say, but it's a really great feeling. And I have a lot of faith, that you open the door, you take the first step, things will kind of appear. The next step will appear for you. And so life is not perfect, but, I've started with my first retreat that's planned in a few weeks, and tremendous interest in it. So I'm just thrilled. I'm thrilled that there's interest, and it's really opened up a whole lot of other possibilities.
I love what you say here, because we don't talk about that enough, that women are very intuitive. And you started writing. You're starting on paper. I'm going to design my life, even if it sounds completely crazy.
Exactly. Yeah, it is.
But it started on paper.
It did.
And I just love this, because we don't talk about that.
No.
It starts within you, daring to listen.
Absolutely. The answers are always in you, right? The answers are always in you. You just need to give space to find those, to be able to see the answers. And we don't, right? We every day we go out and we go through everything. We go through work, we go through family, we go through all our other obligations, and typically, and women are still today, have an unequal burden of responsibilities, and so we tend to be forget ourselves, right? And so for me, and I didn't mention this earlier, but outdoors is important. Yoga was important to me. Yoga is important. Simply for me personally, it was a way of connecting my mind and my body. And so when things aren't going well for me, my body I usually get some sort of signal from my body that something's not in balance or something's not right. So I am, I think, intuitive. I think that I've grown to be more intuitive. And, it was funny because I don't know if you saw this when the local MP, Jenica Atwin, who recently won the seat in Fredericton. And in her interview, her post-election interview, she just won her seat, was reelected. The journalist asked her, because she had switched, she was a Green Party member and she became a Liberal. She crossed the floor to the Liberal Party. Anyways, the journalist asked her, about, okay, so now how do you feel about, and how did you come to that decision of, crossing the floor? And she said, well, I asked for some signs. I asked for, some sort of guidance. And she said, that night I went to, I was outside and I was looking at the sunset. It was like red sunset. She goes, that was my answer. She goes, I knew I had done the right thing. So it's funny. It's a funny story, but I thought that took a lot of courage for, someone to say that in the mainstream media. I think the world of a woman who kind of, stakes her claim and says, well, that's okay. That's the way I see the world.
Yeah, I love this because as I said, we don't talk enough about that a lot of very successful women it always comes to this, the time to reconnect with who they are, stop listening to all the formulas around you and what do I want?
And it's kind of our internal GPS, right? And so, you make decisions, hundreds of decisions a day, and you worry about your career, you worry about your family, you worry about all kinds of things. And sometimes we just get lost. I think that's just it. I think you just need to get your GPS going sometimes, and it'll help you find it and get your answers. Mm-hmm.
When you said, and the day you said, the struggle, and then when you did it, oh man, it felt good, you said. Where did it feel in your body? Like, can you remember where were you? When did it hit you?
Well, I wasn't sleeping, I was really it was a big decision, to leave which would be, which was a lovely job. I mean, it was a lovely, position, and any person in their right mind would want that position. But it was a big decision. But once I made that decision, and it took a while, but once I made it, I slept like a baby. My mind was clear, and then I just turned the page and I started working on something else, on my project, and it felt great.
Wow, I love it. So what was the big payoff for you of all that work and that process? So it doesn't have to be the financial aspect of things. It could be something that happened that you said, oh my God, this is it.
Well, so I started promoting this first retreat for women leaders, which is, has a mixture of outdoor and wellness and leadership type of workshops. And I think I've heard your other guests say this, cut in, what's your biggest fear is that, no one will buy or no one will be interested in what you're offering, right? So that was a huge fear. But the biggest gratification, or the biggest benefit for me, was the interest that it created. And I had, doctors and entrepreneurs and all kinds of people saying, wow, I really love the concept. And have you thought of doing it just for this type of group, or, just for entrepreneurs, because it's lonely at the top as entrepreneurs, and we'd love to have this kind of network where we can connect. And really, I think, in all fairness, because of COVID, I think there's a big craving for people to reconnect. And so this particular formula that I'm offering is a very small, very exclusive small group. It really, I think, has ringing a bell with a lot of people.
Yeah, definitely. And I have to say, because I'm very transparent, I'm going to be part of the retreat, and I'm so excited.
I'm thrilled to have you. I'm thrilled.
So check our stories, because we're probably going to be taking some photos and stuff, and in the woods, because I don't know exactly what we're going to be doing, but I know some of it's going to be outdoor. So I'm so excited about this. So you've been using social media, Françoise, and we talked about it. So how is your feel right now? It's one thing to talk about social media for an organization, but when it's you and your nose and your mouth and your eyes and your heart and your brain, how does that feel? What is your relationship so far with social media?
Well, I'm scared to death, quite frankly. I'll be perfectly honest. And I know, I've been involved in communications and in marketing, and it's a completely different story when you're the brand and you're the person. So I've been I'll be perfectly honest, I've been very intimidated by it. And which is why I reached out to you, because that's obviously your specialty, to help female entrepreneurs and leaders to kind of get over that fear. And I loved the way that Corinne Boudreau said it in your last interview, or one of your recent interviews, when she said, you almost feel like it's, you're full of yourself, or it's too much, I feel like. So I need to get over that, I know. And because I do, honestly think that, I have something interesting to offer. And I think there's people interested in having these conversations and having these kinds of services or experiences. And so, but yeah.
Well, you're on your way. Look at you.
I have a little
You're
bit.
Live right now, and you're live. Everything is okay.
Yeah. No one's died in the last 10 minutes. That's good.
So, is there anything I should have asked you that you want to share with us?
No, I think I would just say that the message that I think is really important for my brand, or is the authenticity of being who you are, and it will just guide you through everything that you need to go through. And it sounds easier than it is. It really is not that easy, but that's the message I would have for folks, and for women who are maybe feeling a little bit lost sometimes, and having a hard time making some difficult decisions. And
yeah, that's a great way. Let's conclude with this. I know you have a recipe. I'm not asking you to give your full recipe, but what would be 3 advice for someone who's looking for clarity right now, whether they're VPs or presidents, CEOs of an organization, and then they want to, I remember the first time we met, you said, enough of working 80 hours for someone else's dream. I want to build my dream, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So what is the 3 things I could do tomorrow to help me get to clarify exactly how you feel about all of this?
Well, first you need to create space. You need to create space in your head to allow to have this reflection, because that's exactly what we don't allow ourselves often to do. And creating space is different for everybody, but certainly getting away from distractions and carving out time for some reflection is certainly one of the first things I'd say. I would also say the importance of mentors. Really, really important. And it might not be a mentor or a trusted group of advisors, and it might be your peer, or it might be another environment. But there's a lot of shared living, or not shared living. No, that's not what I mean. But there's a lot of experience out there, and it's so helpful when you're kind of trying to find your way to get someone else's perspective and share their experiences. So that trusted network, I think, would be another piece of advice I would give. And the third thing I would say is to follow your guts. I mean, I know it's easy to say. It's not that easy to do, but do what makes you feel happy, not makes you what you're feeling obligated to do.
Yes, thank you so much. Because it is really something, you know, when you talk to women leaders like yourself, or even some of my students, or even part of mastermind I belong to, it always end up to, follow your intuition at the end of the day. So, and using the 3 points you said, you know, makes time and space, you know, get a good circle of people around yourself, and then feel supported, right? And then at the end, you're the one making the right? So so exciting. And so if you want to learn more about Françoise projects, mission, retreats, www.solva.ca, and you'll have more information there. Or even if you want to contact Françoise, everything is on the website. Thank you so much, Françoise, and best of luck. And I can't wait for the retreat.
I can't wait.
I'm already a groupie, as you can see.
Thank you, Angelique. I really enjoyed the conversation, and I look forward to our time together in a few weeks.
Okay. So see you soon. Thank you, everybody. If you're watching the replay, you have to tell us in the comments what resonated with you. And if you feel embarrassed, just send me a private message or send a message to Françoise, because this is because of you watching and listening on the podcast or any of the social media platforms. If we hear from you, you know, we all get stronger. It's not just about growing each other's business. It's also building that link, that feminine link that we have that makes us grow, right? Grow confidence, grow relationship networks, everything. So don't forget to let us know in the comments or by private messages what you felt during this interview, because Françoise, you went deep, and I appreciate that. I love it. Thank you so much, so much, so much.
It was my pleasure. Thanks.
Okay.
Take care.
Hello, Jo Galan. Hello, hello. Okay, I'm just gonna say goodbye to Instagram. And if you're just joining now, the podcast is gonna be available in a few days if you're more an audio person. But until then, I'm gonna put that on IGTV here, and then bye-bye, Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn.